You're watching All 24 News World News Program. To the headlines. Trump gives Iran 2 days to end the war. Iran takes out U.S. fighter jets and warns of nuclear disaster while leaving the door open to negotiations. Iran's new rule. Revolutionary Guard must approve Hormuz passage. UN delays the vote over the strait reopening again, while the US raises its security pledge to $40 billion. Oil prices hit an 18-year high. Iran keeps raising exports from Karg Island despite US bombing. And Morocco raises fuel prices for the third time in a month. And later on, Sahara group says Moroccan drones are hitting more civilians. Spanish voices warn against resource plunder. Human rights organizations demand international inquiry into abuse in Moroccan prisons. Welcome back. First off, on news tonight, U.S. President Donald Trump has given Iran a 48-hour deadline to reach an agreement to end the war in the Middle East, now ongoing for more than a month. In a post on his platform, Truth Social, Trump warned Tehran it would face what he described as hell if no deal is reached.
Not perish, but have.
Remember when I gave Iran 10 days to make a deal or open up the Hormuz Strait? Time is running out, 48 hours before all hell will rain down on them.
The spokesperson for Khatam al-Anbiya Air Defense Command, Ibrahim Zalfaghari, says Iran deployed new domestically built systems to intercept advanced U.S. aircraft. According to Iran's state agency, IRNA, the systems operated by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps shot down F-35 fighter jet, 3 MQ-9 and Hermes drones, and 2 cruise missiles, while also targeting an A-10 aircraft and Black Hawk helicopters. Zalfaghari added that these newly developed air defense systems will be unveiled progressively on the battlefield.
On the 35th day of the war imposed by U.S. Zionist enemies was a day of great pride of the country's air defense units. The brave fighters of Islam delivered powerful, rapid and precise blows to the enemy fighter jets, helicopters, drones and other aircraft, shooting down a significant number of them.
The U.S. Department of War says 13 American service members have been killed since the start of the war with Iran. At least 365 U.S. troops have been wounded in action during the conflict, according to the Pentagon data. Iran's Fars news agency reports that missile strikes hit petrochemical complexes in Mashhad, Khuzestan province. U.S. Zionist airstrikes reportedly targeted 4 industrial sites, including the Fajr Energy Company, sending plumes of smoke across the country or the city. Attacks also hit the southwestern economic zone and the Ministry of Agriculture warehouses in Alam province. Meanwhile, Mehr news agency says at least 1 person was killed early Saturday in Tehran following the strikes, with videos showing damage to homes and vehicles. Iran's Atomic Energy Organization says a projectile struck near the Bushehr nuclear power plant, killing a security guard and damaging a side building. The plant, operated under Russian supervision, reportedly sustained no damage to its main facilities, and production continues unaffected, according to Tasnim news agency. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warned that any attack on the Bushehr nuclear power plant could trigger a regional catastrophe, threatening millions and causing widespread environmental and security damage across the Gulf. Posting on X platform, Araghchi criticized the international community's silence, highlighting what he called Western double standards in response to nuclear incidents. He also condemned recent attacks on Iran's nuclear and petrochemical facilities, calling for urgent global action to prevent escalation.
Remember the Western outrage about hostilities near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Israel, US have bombed our Bushehr plant 4 times now. Radioactive fallout will end life in GCC capitals, not Tehran. Attacks on our petrochemicals also convey real objectives.
The Iranian foreign minister says Tehran has never refused Pakistani-mediated talks. Araghchi insists Iran is ready to negotiate, but only if conditions guarantee a permanent end to what he calls the war imposed on Iran.
Iran's position is being misrepresented by US media. We are deeply grateful for Pakistan for its effort and have never refused to go to Islamabad. What we care about are the terms of a conclusive and lasting end to the illegal war that is imposed on us.
Iraq's Security Committee in Basra says the Shalamsha border crossing is fully closed after U.S. airstrikes on the Iranian side killed 1 Iraqi traveler and injured 5 Iranians. The Iraqi Ministry of Energy says specialized units intercepted 2 drones targeting the Rumaila oil field west of Basra. Meanwhile, the so-called Islamic resistance in Iraq claims it carried out 19 attacks on U.S. bases across Iraq and the region over the past 24 hours. Using dozens of missiles and drones. Three Gulf states came under attack Saturday as the Middle East conflict hit day 36. In Dubai, debris from an intercepted aerial threat struck the Oracle building in Internet City. No injuries were reported according to authorities. Bahrain saw 4 people hurt after drone debris fell during an interception. The Ministry of Interior confirmed their raid sirens sounded twice. Saudi Arabia's civil defense activated early warning systems across the eastern province without providing further details. Iran says the Strait of Hormuz is under its full control and warns no country will pass without Tehran's permission. Abbas Goudarzi, spokesperson for Iran's parliamentary presiding board, called the strait a strategic asset and vowed it will be defended with all military capabilities. Iran is tightening control over the Strait of Hormuz, requiring shipping companies to coordinate with brokers linked to the IRGC to secure the passage. Tankers may also have to change registration and fly flags of countries Tehran considers friendly. Bloomberg reports that while traffic through the strait has increased slightly, it remains far below normal levels. Insurance companies and ship owners continue to act cautiously amid the ongoing tensions, highlighting the region's fragile maritime security. The UN Security Council has postponed for the second time in hours a vote on Bahrain's draft resolution to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by force. 2 UN diplomats told international news agencies that yesterday's session was delayed to Saturday and now pushed again to next week.
Meeting of the Security Council is called to order.
The U.S. is doubling its reinsurance guarantees for ships in the Strait of Hormuz, now up to $40 billion to get maritime traffic moving again. A White House statement says big names like Berkshire Hathaway and the AIG are now on board as partners, offering financial protection to ease fears from the past 5 weeks of military escalation. Ben Black, CEO of the International Development Finance Corporation, said the move aims to restore confidence in international shipping.
We are proud to welcome these new partners into our joint marine reinsurance initiative. These leading companies bring deep underwriting expertise in marine insurance and war risk coverage, which will strengthen our effort to restore confidence in international trade. This collaboration is directly aimed at securing vital waterways and protecting the global economy from the repercussions of the current crisis.
We're still with the Middle East developments. At least 17 Lebanese, including 2 children, were killed and dozens more wounded in Zionist airstrikes across Lebanon on Saturday. In Tyre, 11 people were killed, including 2 women in the city's industrial zone, and many more were injured. In the Bekaa Valley, an airstrike on Samar killed 2 people and wounded 15, while shelling in Yatar and Habush killed 4, including 2 children, and injuring 13 others. The Lebanese Health Ministry said 54 people were killed and 156 others wounded in the past 24 hours alone, bringing the overall toll since March 2nd to 1,422 dead and 4,294 injured, including women, children, and paramedics. 2 Palestinians were killed and several others wounded after Zionist forces struck a vehicle in the Gaza Strip, violating the ceasefire one more time. The Palestinian Center said the attack on Salah ad-Din Street between Maghazi and Nusayrat camps left some victims in critical condition. Still in Gaza, the situation there continues to deteriorate by the day due to the ongoing Zionist blockade as well as chronic power shortages, which are driving a severe humanitarian crisis. Karim Musfaya has more.
What was once routine in Gaza has become uncertain and at times impossible as residents struggle to access even the most basic necessities amid prolonged power outages. After 2 years of intense Zionist bombardment, vital infrastructure has been severely damaged. Desalination and wastewater treatment plants are out of service, leaving families with dangerously limited access to clean drinking water.
I carry water in small containers. We don't have a large tank, not even a 500-liter one, so we have to make constant trips back and forth, and water isn't always available. Sometimes my son comes back without having been able to fill them.
The energy crisis is also pushing Gaza's already fragile healthcare system to the brink, as the few hospitals that remain operational rely almost entirely on generators to continue functioning.
If the generators stop working, it will be a catastrophe and a real danger for all hospital staff, especially premature infants, dialysis patients, and those in intensive care, as well as for blood banks. Most services would be paralyzed. We are sounding the alarm. Hospitals will be unable to function if fuel and oil are not delivered as quickly as possible.
As Gaza keeps suffering terribly, international humanitarian organizations are warning that the collapse of essential services may be imminent.
Hospitals and medical centers in Gaza that are still able to function work under immense pressure and at risk of collapse. These hospitals work with shortages in energy, medical supplies and equipment.
Ongoing insecurity and electricity shortages are making it increasingly difficult to deliver aid. The result is a growing threat of widespread famine. Without urgent action to restore power and deliver essential supplies, what is already a devastating crisis could quickly spiral into something even worse.
Iran says it has increased oil exports from Karg Island despite U.S. threats targeting the strategic site. ISNA quoted Musa Ahmadi, head of the Iran's Parliamentary Energy Committee, saying exports have risen, not fallen. U.S. President Donald Trump warned the island could be destroyed if a deal to end the war isn't reached and the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Brent crude just hit its highest level since the 2008 financial crisis, blamed tighter supplies. According to S&P Global, oil for delivery in 10 to 30 days is now going for $141.36 a barrel. That's a full $32 above June futures, proof that immediate demand is way stronger than future bets. Morocco has announced its third energy price hike in under a month, pushing costs up 41% and fueling public outrage. Professional bodies and unions say the government has mismanaged the crisis, favoring fuel lobbies and companies linked to the royal palace. Sofian Kinturi has more in this report.
Morocco is facing a mounting energy shock as households grapple with a steep and sudden rise in fuel prices. In the span of just 1 month, prices have surged by more than 30%, a jump that has set off alarm bells among unions and professional groups and fueled growing frustration on the streets. For many, global market volatility is no longer a sufficient explanation. Instead, criticism is increasingly directed at how the crisis is being handled domestically. The impact is already spreading far beyond fuel pumps. Transport, a cornerstone of the national economy, is under severe strain. As one of the first sectors hit, its disruption is now feeding directly into rising costs for basic goods, adding further pressure on already stretched households.
The fuel prices raised in big way. This is too much. We did never expect that fuel prices will reach this limit. It's not something we can afford.
Unions have echoed these concerns in unusually strong terms, warning of unprecedented price hikes and a sharp erosion of purchasing power. Some caution that, if left unchecked, the current trend could push the economy toward a period of sustained inflation.
The National Coordination of Road Freight Transport Unions is closely monitoring the sharp and unprecedented surge in fuel prices. This increase will have a negative impact on the prices of other consumer goods, which are already weighing heavily on citizens who are facing an unprecedented decline in purchasing power. This, in turn, is likely to push the national economy into a wave of severe inflation.
Authorities point to external pressures and global energy dynamics, but on the ground, the reality is increasingly difficult to observe. In Morocco, the debate is no longer centered on the causes behind the price surge, but on how much more strain households can endure before reaching a breaking point.
The head of the Sahrawi Mine Action Coordination Office warned of a rising threat from Moroccan drones targeting Sahrawi civilians. Speaking at an event for International Mine Awareness Day, he highlighted the dual dangers of landmines and drone attacks, showing anti-personnel mines and images of drones and cluster bombs used against unarmed civilians. Jose Luis Alvarez Castellanos, a Murcia Parliament member, praised the recent resolution rejecting any unilateral moves that violate the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination. Spanish journalist Victoria Garcia Correa said resolving the Western Sahara conflict must follow international law, warning that it has become an economic model of occupation and resource plundering. Journalists and human rights activists, for his part, Vito Alvarez defended Sahrawi sovereignty, criticizing international silence and lack of accountability, which he said fuels ongoing violations. On Friday, Sahrawi human rights groups called for an international investigation into Moroccan violations against detainees. The Sahrawi Association of Victims of Gross Humanitarian Rights Violations demanded an end to systematic crimes in occupation prisons. Coressa and the Committee of Families of Political Prisoners urged greater international pressure to free all detainees, including students forced into hunger strikes, to protest their conditions. Elsewhere in Africa, UN experts have warned that Sudan could face a catastrophic crisis if the ongoing fighting continues. The Sudanese aid organization CARE said the country is at a dangerous crossroads, highlighting the alarming scale and intensity of the violence. Reports point to the widespread sexual attacks on women and girls, mass displacement, and a deteriorating humanitarian situation that threatens millions of lives.
After 3 years of the conflict in Sudan, I think the situation has just gotten worse. Every year we see increasing number of people in acute need of assistance, food, health, clean water, nutrition, protection services. So right now we are speaking about 33.7 million people in acute need of assistance. But what is more troubling also is the fact that with the crisis increasing and the needs increasing, we do not have sufficient funding to match with the level of needs that are there. On top of that also is the food security crisis, which is really becoming a major concern in Sudan. We have women who have been the backbone of the Sudanese households in terms of providing for the families, but they do not have resources because they have been displaced multiple times.
Back home, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, General Said Shingriha, praised the military installation sector for boosting operational capabilities and readiness. Speaking via video conference to Army officers, he highlighted recent development projects and improved personal performance as key factors in the sector's qualitative leap.
ارتبط بالشق الاجتماعي من خلال قطاع المنشآت العسكرية.
The military infrastructure sector has contributed, under the directives of His Excellency the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, to strengthening the operational capabilities of our valiant army and enhancing its readiness. This has been achieved both through operational aspect by overseeing the construction of modern, high-quality facilities and through the social dimension by improving the living conditions of military personnel. In this context, the Central Directorate of Military Infrastructure has witnessed, over the past few years, a significant qualitative leap, particularly through the completion of various development projects. It has successfully established numerous major facilities including hospitals, social amenities, and camps for operational units, all built for high standards that reflect the scale of the efforts made, as well as the quality and competence of human resources within this important directorate.
And before we wrap up, here are more international news stories in the News in Brief with Salma Kanturi, with Salman Al-Sib.
French authorities have sent European MP Rima Hassan to trial on charges of glorifying terrorism after her arrest last week. Her lawyer Vincent Bringarth said the case was fabricated to bypass her immunity, while Hassan denounced ongoing political and judicial harassment over her pro-Palestinian views. Ukrainian authorities said that 5 people were killed and 19 injured in a Russian strike on the eastern city of Nikopol. The Prosecutor's General Office stated on Telegram that the attack was carried out by a drone targeted a market near the Russian-controlled side of the Dnipro River. 8 people were killed and a child injured after a 5.9 magnitude earthquake struck parts of Afghanistan on Friday. The country's disaster authorities said the victims died when their home collapsed in Kabul, while the German Research Center for Geosciences reported that the quake's epicenter was in the Hindu Kush at a depth of 177 kilometers, with tremors felt as far as Islamabad in Pakistan. Algerian Olympic champion Kayla Nemour qualified for the balance beam final at the Women's Artistic Gymnastics World Cup in Cairo. She topped the qualifiers with a score of 14.633, continuing her strong form. Nemour is also set to compete on Sunday in both the uneven bars and balance beam finals.
And that brings us to the end of our news program. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.